Many nations joining in a call for an immediate ceasefire this week. Obviously, this is a humanitarian crisis of epic proportions that we want to discuss with our guest, Mara Kronenfeld, who's Executive Director of UNRWA, which is United Nations Relief and Works Agency USA. You find her at Mara Kronenfeld. Mara, welcome. Thank you for being on POTUS today.
Thank you for having me.
What is the situation with aid relief? Who is coordinating relief? How is it getting to Gaza, and who is receiving aid?
Thank you. And thank you for shedding light on this topic. The situation is apocalyptic on the ground. We have 2 million people facing starvation. Myself and my colleagues are receiving an outpouring of desperate messages from families on the ground. Their children, skin on bones. They're telling us their neighbors are fainting in the street. We have seen horrible, horrible moments in these last 21 months of the war on Gaza. But I can tell you, humanity is at another terrible crossroads, and it is absolutely time to act right now. Aid that has been provided by the United Nations and in fact UNRWA for the last 75 years effectively has been stopped by Israel. They are letting in only piecemeal aid from the United Nations and instead have propped up the so-called Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, which is feeding people, the whole population of Gaza, 2 million people from 4 centers in southern Gaza. UNRWA used to have 400 centers, and this is creating hundreds of thousands of people descending on these aid centers, starving, beleaguered, desperate, the elderly, the disabled, orphans. And if you can believe it, and it is really hard to believe, 1,000 of these seekers of aid have been shot and killed. Many more thousands injured just trying to seek aid, and they've been shot, unfortunately, by the Israeli military.
Are there other gangs that are interfering with this as well? I mean, my understanding is also that there have been aid trucks that have been looted by armed gangs as well.
In the last days, the World Food Program had a convoy of food coming in. And actually what happened is starving, beleaguered Palestinians, families, civilians who are trying to reach the aid descended upon this aid truck. And the Israeli military then shot at those aid seekers because of presumably, I can't get into their minds, but presumably because of the chaos. You know, what we're talking about is 2 million people being deprived of food, of medicine, watching their families dying of starvation in front of them, when UNRWA itself has 6,000 trucks of food and medical supplies a mile away, and Israel will not let those trucks in. This is shameful. So when you have people who've been going for however many months without adequate food, without adequate water, with no treatment for their injuries and the diseases that they are facing, they are indeed desperate. The way to get rid of armed gangs, if there are any, the way to get rid of them is to flood the market, flood the Gaza Strip with aid. That aid exists. We are in such a dystopian moment where that aid is just beyond the border and it's not allowed in. What is being provided, if you can call it humanitarian aid by Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is so limited in comparison to the need. UNRWA can feed 2 million people for 3 months if that aid is just let in.
UNRWA, UNRWA, United Nations Relief and Works Agency. Mara Kronenfeld is Executive Director of that group. Mara, if I could ask you for a moment, I wanted to ask about Syria only because we have seen, obviously, some unrest there. And I know that that is part of the umbrella that you serve. And I wonder if the situation is any better? Is it improving? What is it relative to individuals who are looking for aid there?
Yeah, I mean, UNRWA serves Palestine refugees there, and the situation is critical. It is critical because of the severe poverty, the economic situation, and of course, Palestinian refugees have also, been subject to the chaos of the long civil war, and then recently as well. So I can say the situation is bad there. It's bad in Lebanon, of course, in the West Bank, but the most dire needs, absolutely, and the world's attention needs to be on Gaza.
What would you like to tell President Trump or tell Congress or both?
The entity that is essentially been bombing schools, hospitals, cemeteries, that has been responsible for at least 55,000 deaths. Others, like the Lancet, respected medical journal, of course, in the UK, are estimating upwards of actual numbers being 120,000. If you're allowing that entity to be responsible for the humanitarian aid of keeping the rest of that population alive, one has got to understand the irony in that, and unfortunately, the deathly consequences of that. We need to let those who are professionals, those who have provided humanitarian aid for the last 75 years, those who can do it with transparency, independence, and with the dignity of beneficiaries in mind, those who have 3 months of aid for 2 million people, let that aid in before the entire population perishes. This is something none of us want on our consciousnesses, and this is something history will not forget. Let me guarantee you, we all will have been against this in the future.
I do appreciate you spending time with us, Mara Kronenfeld. Thank you for being on POTUS.
Thank you so much.